Welcome, everyone, to episode 61 of the Thundercraps podcast, where we forge through the shitstorm that was WCW Thunder. I'm your host, the big bad doo-doo daddy, Josh Kaiser. Flush me if you hear me. For the man joining me today, Big Papa Dump, Kyle Hoagland.
Man, you just, got everything out of one promo, which, I'll be honest, wasn't exactly hilarious other than the his impression, just his impression in general was awesome.
Dude, I gotta admit, I cracked up like an immature 12-year-old.
What, from the toilet humor?
Toilet humor is my jam. Buff Bagwell had the stuff. I gotta admit, though, I mean, would you rather hear toilet humor or I'm the buff, I have the stuff, you are not buff, and you do not have the stuff?
I wonder if they workshop that afterwards, and they're like, we went over and we looked at your last promo, and we felt that there were some holes in it. So why don't you next time around put on a dyed blonde hair and a mustache, goatee, and have like the raspy Scott Steiner voice, and see if you'll get over on the B show of WCW. But what's going on, man? This is going to be like the kind of show that I would say is the quintessential example of a show that looks fantastic on paper and then does not deliver. In my opinion, it's this show. Hopefully, maybe, like I said, I don't know what your thoughts are on it, but be prepared for a lot of low ratings from me.
What you just said makes a lot of sense, and we can kind of get into it. Of course, this is Thunder 61. It is April 29th, 1999, and as we were talking about briefly before we started recording, that date is very significant because we are now at the Thursday Night Wars, Kyle. It is the debut night of
Are we going to have to change
SmackDown.
our format?
So no, we are here. It's Thunder 61. We are live, which is the only way you could compete with SmackDown is you got to go live with them. But we open up with the cold opening, and it is Ric Flair. He's in the loony bin. He's dancing in his boxers, singing with a bunch of course, other crazy people. And you've got doctors and nurses also dancing around, which I thought was a little strange. But he is singing "She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain," which you noted could be quite the euphemism, and I did not think of it at the time. But man, "She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain" is a fantastic euphemism for Ric Flair.
There's no better. I challenge the Thunder Buddies to find me a better euphemism song for Ric Flair than "She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain When She Comes."
Man, it was good. But then we cut into that. We are live from the home of Joe Paterno, so things have aged well here in 20 years. We are in Penn State's campus, and we've got quite a night on us. But beforehand, we get our first real replay of the night, and it's a promo for Ric Flair and how he was corrupted by power and how it made him become crazy. It was kind of a weird promo. But they ultimately promote, of course, him and Piper at Slamboree. That's the big match that they've got for the rights to run WCW.
Did you notice that, after they did that, then it felt like Thunder started? It felt like Thunder didn't start right.
Yeah, okay, that's, yeah.
When the show started, it was almost muted. You could barely hear there was no music. There was no crowd noise.
It was almost like they shouldn't have cut to the "Welcome to Thunder" until after they did the Flair Looney Bin and Flair promo package, and then it's like, okay, now let's welcome everybody in.
Right, it almost felt like they weren't supposed to go to the Flair package just yet, but because of whatever production issues they were having, they were just like, "Hey, welcome to Thunder." And, didn't have a graphic, they didn't have the music, they didn't have the pyro, they had nothing. It felt like the show hadn't started yet, but they were live, so they started. And today's like, "Hey guys, welcome to Thunder. We're live, and here's this, here's what's going on with Ric Flair." And then that's over, and they come back, and now here's the pyro, here's the music, here's the crowd getting hyped up, here's the graphics saying they're live, and also what city they're in. All that stuff that you're used to expecting to see at the beginning of a Thunder is now showing up on the second attempt of actually bringing in the show.
Not a good way to kick things off when you're competing head-to-head, but hey. We do have Mike Tenay, though. No one's going to hype you up more than Mike Tenay. He's going to let us know that the two championships changed hands on Nitro. I realized he did not. I didn't realize till a few minutes later that he said 2 world championships changed. And I was really confused until we found out that it is the world title that changed, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Larry Chance are actually out here tonight, and it is a bit of a homecoming for Mr. Larry Zbyszko, the Penn State Nittany Lion that is him. And he notes that going to Penn State beat the Ho Chi Minh Trail. So
does that mean like he was in Nam? Is that what he was trying to?
I don't know whether he was saying that or he's saying I didn't fight in the war. I went to Penn State instead, and I guess it beat being in the Vietnam War.
Oh, I'm trying to. Larry Zbyszko spoke in fucking encryption today half the time. I didn't understand it. I thought he was actually in the Army. I thought he did go to Vietnam and then wrestled after he got back. I'm not a historian of Larry Zbyszko, but I thought he said like, oh well, I didn't know too much about that because I was walking I was walking along the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which in a sense, oh, he was in active service, I guess, but. I don't know, and secondly, no offense to the armed services. Thank you for your service, but I don't give a fuck about Larry Zbyszko going to Vietnam.
Well, and also I think it's a weird thing, like, going to college here beat being in the Holocaust. So thanks, Larry, for stating the obvious here.
Yeah, so it's much better than getting napalm, thrown at me. Yeah, I'm glad that's your silver lining.
Right. Now things do kick off just the way you'd expect in a night. I gotta admit, here when you're going head to head with SmackDown, you gotta really bring the big players out, and they open up with Curt Hennig and Booker T. Which, I mean, if you're gonna open up a match, those are two great candidates to pick to put in a match with each other, and they give them a long time. I think you actually timed the match and said it was 13 minutes or so, which is a long opening. In the match, we do find out that Sting beat Diamond Dallas Page for the world title on Nitro, and then later in the night, DDP beat Sting for the world title thanks to Macho Man, so that's the world title that changed twice. So now, congrats, I guess DDP is still your world champion. We get some sleeper holds in this match, and it was really slower than I would have liked for these two. Booker T takes a pile driver, and he falls in the weirdest way I've ever seen anyone ever take a pile driver.
He kind of got accordion, but I think that was his fault.
It was just bizarre. Stevie Ray. Well, yes, but Booker T's going to hit
spoilers, dude.
Booker T's going to hit the X kick, standing side kick, spin-a-rooney, and it looks like he's getting ready for the missile drop kick. Stevie Ray's going to come out, slapjack to Curt Hennig. Curt Hennig's going to win by disqualification. That's your match. I give it 2.25 stars. I thought it was a good back and forth match. I thought the two could have done better, but they protected them with the DQ finish. And we find out that Booker T and Stevie Ray are not, in fact, wrestling at Slamboree, which is kind of what you thought was maybe the storyline going here between Booker and Stevie Ray. But, in fact, Rick Steiner and Booker T are wrestling at Slamboree. So that part was a little weird. But I thought it was a decent way to open the show, and you disagree with me on that.
I did. I didn't like the way it started off. I gave it 1.5 stars, and I know what you're saying. We have rated shittier overall matches at 1.5 stars. And I'm not saying that this is as bad. I think the overall presentation, what I could have expected from this match, what we actually got in the match, what we got as a finish, that's why the rating is so low in this match. This match was super, super slow on top of the fact that it was 13 minutes long. You had a point where I think, if I timed it correctly, Hennig had Booker T in a sleeper for 2 minutes of the match. And then you end it with this inconsequential DQ finish. We already know that Booker T and Stevie Ray, I mean, I don't know what you call it. They're at odds with each other. They're having like a little bit of a spat, but they're not coming to blows.
I feel like it's been an ongoing spat since they literally broke up.
Right. I mean, pretty much ever since Booker T came back from his injury and Stevie Ray took his TV title from him while he was gone and, defended it for him. This match to me is like pure wrestling torture. Two guys I really like, and was thinking to myself, two guys I really like, two good workers. The work rate usually is top notch, and I watched it and it was just really slow. I'm sure Hennig is still injured at this point. But once again, if you're going to start off this show and start with a bang, this is not the way to do it. It was, like I said, super, super slow. Nobody got over on this match. Stevie Ray didn't need to be there. There was nothing about this match that I felt had any kind of positives. So yeah, I could, to me, 2 stars. We've talked about what 2-star match is usually it's fine. I think that's a 2-star match to us is like, it's okay. It's fine. Like there's nothing great, nothing bad. They did their thing and they got out. That's a 2-star match. This to me was just giving 2 guys way too much time and them not really. It's kind of like, you give somebody like I guess not the responsibility, but like the privilege to be given like 13 minutes to do whatever you want to do. And then they give you that. And I just felt like it wasn't a good way to start the show.
Well, it's not going to continue well from there because we get Mike Tenay shilling the hotline. We then get a Kevin Nash video package, which it was basically the Wolfpack music, and they showed random clips of Nash just standing there.
And wearing FUBU and then wearing a hat.
Literally not a single jackknife powerbomb or him beating anybody in the ring. Literally just him standing, different clips of him in the ring.
And we'll see that. We'll see another person get something very similar later.
Yes, we will. We then have out comes Hack with Chastity. He's going to get in, cut a promo here. He gets on the mic and says he's proved to everyone that he is the most extreme wrestler on the planet. He beat Bam Bam to an inch of his career. He beat him and Raven in one of the most brutal matches ever. He said, you saw me beat Goldberg with an inch of his career, which, of course, Tenay and Zbyszko have a problem with. And then he's going to ask his sexy girlfriend for an opponent, and she keeps whispering names. What he says is, that guy's too fat, that guy's too old. So finally says she's going to pick someone who's too sexy and ask him to challenge big sexy Kevin Nash tonight, and that's exactly what Hack's going to do.
I was afraid that when you were going to introduce me, that you were going to be like, a man who is too fat, too stupid, too ugly to wrestle according to Hack, Kyle Hoagland. I was like, I really hope he doesn't do that. But no, I appreciate the big papa dump. Much better.
After the promo where he throws down the gauntlet, we go backstage and we see that Booker T and Rick Steiner are battling. We don't know why, other than that they have a television title match at Slamboree, and for some reason they're fighting. I guess this is their way to heat that up. We then go to a Goldberg video package, which is Goldberg's music played by clips of Goldberg standing in the ring.
Just mean mugging. That's all he's doing.
With his Wikipedia page
you can do it.
Scrolling around in the background. Again, just weird promos here. If you're going to show me a Goldberg promo package, I want to see him spearing the fuck out of people, jackhammering people, not him standing in the ring with his Wikipedia article behind him.
And not too long, maybe 60 seconds of Goldberg. That's fine if you give me something like that.
Give me about 60 seconds. I think that's just the ideal amount of time.
Right, we got to go overtime, that's fine, but don't change it. Just keep it 60 seconds.
Keep it simple. We do find out, speaking of Goldberg, that he is in action tonight against Ming, Kyle. So you can, of course, remember Ming and Goldberg had a hell of a feud about a year ago now, I guess.
I think it was pretty early. No, I wouldn't say it was a year ago. It was the very beginning of his world title reign.
Okay,
like
so
I was like one of his first kind of guys.
So 8-9 months away, or
I would say early
ago.
Summer. I would say early summer.
Yeah. Okay. We do find out that Goldberg is wrestling Sting at Spring Stampede because Ric Flair knew that these two guys cannot get on the same side, so I'm going to put them up against each other. So that's the story that's going on there. Next, we got Buff Bagwell coming out. He's dressed like Scott Steiner. This is the he comes out and says Michigan sucks, so he's going to get the cheap pop from the Penn State fans here. He's got the fake wig and the goatee on as he's trying to pretend like he's Scott Steiner. That's when he calls himself the Big Bad Doo-Doo Daddy. He says he's watching BET to steal rappers' lines. He says, I'm Scott Steiner. I'm a liar. And then, of course, he says, flush me if you hear me. So just making fun of Scott Steiner, pushing that Bagwell-Steiner feud coming up at Slamboree.
I did like the little bit of the shoot that he gave where he said that he was watching BET and he found a new line. He says, I'm not a player, but I'm on parole a lot. I'm just on parole a lot, which I thought was just funny because for people who don't understand Scott Steiner, he got arrested quite a bit during the mid to late 90s for his shenanigans. So he was constantly on parole.
After this, we get Jerry Flynn in action with Stevie Ray. Of course, Stevie Ray wrestling Jerry Flynn. He's going to need the entire NWO black and white. They're going to accompany him to the ring. We also find out that Nitro is coming to Cleveland, Kyle, which I don't realize. I don't think I ever knew Nitro came to Cleveland, and I'm disappointed I did not go to that one.
I was always convinced that they went to North Carolina, Georgia, maybe a couple times in Florida, and then for some fucking reason Wyoming once a year. I'm even growing up, as big of fans as you and I were in the late 90s, early 2000s, I don't ever recall seeing something hey, tickets are on sale in Cleveland, we should go to a Nitro show. I don't think that ever went through our minds.
Of course, this could be about the time my interest in WCW was waning, so maybe I wasn't watching much here, but I don't know. Maybe I think I still was watching here because I remember Gorgeous George, so I was definitely watching that era. So I don't know. I have no recollection of that. We do see our first sign of the night. It's been a while since I've had a sign of the night, and this one says Luger fears Joe Pa, which I feel like could be true, right?
I mean, I guess if I'm not touching this.
Jerry Flynn, though, I have to admit, in this match, for being called Lightning Foot, Jerry Flynn, he has some of the slowest kicks I've ever seen. They're not impressive.
Maybe they're great on a curve compared to other wrestlers.
Stevie Ray is going to win with the slapjack. I gave it a star and 3/4. I had to laugh at what both of us wrote as our notes for this match as far as the overall review, and mine was, I don't know what I expected, but it was probably this, where you said, I didn't expect this to be good, and it did not disappoint in that it is disappointing. So I just love that we both expected it to suck, and it pretty much did as much as we expected in that regard.
Right, I think we saw these days coming down, and we said this is a pinnacle star and 3/4 match. We got a star and 3/4, and we're like, that's fine. That's what we thought could be a good match between these two. So
this
the
is
fact
when
that we got there, we're okay with it.
The Rock was cutting a promo on SmackDown, so they said, you know what, nobody's fucking watching right now. Let's throw out Stevie Ray and Jerry Flynn. So that's what we said.
And once again, the old classic. You can argue what you want, but the entire NWO beat up on Jerry Flynn just so Stevie Ray could beat him doesn't make Stevie Ray look all that great.
No, not at all. We then get our Saturday night promo, which they reinvented this one on us. It kind of showed some monitors. It looked like it was a club scene with some shadows of dancing women and stuff. And we find out that Hoovy, Brian Knobbs, the Horseman, and Bagwell are all in action. So always trying to sell us on Saturday night.
I would love to know how many iterations of the Saturday night promo we have gotten. This, we got to be getting up to 5, 6, or 7 now, right?
At least, yeah. It's been a handful.
We're also counting. Well, also counting when we did the old show with the old cardboard cutouts that would come up.
Oh, yeah.
So if we count that as number one, I feel there's been probably at least 6 or 7 different combos of the way they want to try and sell a promo.
Show. Yeah,
and with one of them just being in the middle of a random match.
Speaking of matches, our next one is Hack and Chastity wrestling Kevin Nash. So Kevin Nash has accepted the challenge, and it's a hardcore match, which I got to admit, I did not expect. If you would have told me before watching this Thunder that we were going to get Kevin Nash in a hardcore match with Hack, I would never have saw it coming, but it was here. And actually, I thought it was decent for these two here on a Thunder match with Nash and Sandman. You get Nash does his like side slam, dropping Hack down onto a ladder. You get Hack jumping off the top onto a ladder onto Nash. So I thought there were some impressive spots for a match that, Kevin Nash in the middle of a Thunder show, like I don't expect him to show me much. And I thought he kind of did in this match. Chastity's going to get the fire extinguisher, which Nash is going to take from her. He's going to use it on Hack. Jackknife powerbomb through a table. I gave it 2.5 stars because I was impressed that they gave us this kind of match on Thunder, and one that I don't expect from Nash. Was it a great match? No. It was fine. I think they did more spots than I expected them to. I really thought this was going to be a kind of a lazy attempt of a match here, and that's why I gave it 2.5 stars.
All right, so I will go on the record as saying this is the first correction that I will make. So you got one on me. I'm going to actually bump this to a 2.25. I did have this at 2. I agree with you. I'll go 2.25. There were quite a few obvious botches in this match.
Yeah, I mean, it was not a technical, standout kind of match. This
right,
is not
but when
one
you're doing
show at the wrestling schools.
But when you're going to do a hardcore match and do high spots, like you can't, like it's one of those things where like those are definitely the ones you don't fuck up.
Right.
And there was one where I believe Hack put a ladder on Nash, and then he went to do like a springboard senton, and 100% missed. Nash was way too far away, and Hack thought he could get there. He was nowhere close. But I was overall more entertained than any of the other matches so far. So I almost feel like I called it a pity 2-star rating, which like I said, I bumped it up now. I do agree. It's good to see Nash in a non-squash match. We're pretty sure he was going to win. He's the number one contender for the world title. But it was good to see him. It's one of those things where like Nash doesn't need to be there. He doesn't need to wrestle Hack.
Not in the least bit, right? And Hack is a different opponent for him. I think that's what surprised me the most is if you expect Nash to come out and win on a Thunder, you'd expect him to beat up on, a
Disco Inferno or
like a Disco or possibly a like a Bryan Adams or something to that level, like kind of a mid card guy, maybe even a Ming or something like that. But Hack was an interesting choice, I thought.
No, and I'll go with that. I think one thing I did also kind of enjoy this match is that it had less weapons than I think most hardcore matches we've seen, where they just littered the entire. Don't get me wrong, there were props.
The props were there, but they added to the match. They didn't just litter the match, and it was like they were just there for the sake of being there. Like the typical trash can kind of hardcore matches.
Right. It didn't feel like it was just a weapon after weapon after weapon shot. Where I think that's what we're used to seeing.
Like that one we watched, was it last week or whatever with I can't even remember who now. Was it Hack and somebody? And they literally couldn't even get around the ring because there was just so much shit in the ring.
Oh, I thought that was that was Hack and Hugh Morris. Wasn't that the one where he fell through the table?
That's it. You're right. Yep.
Or jumped into the table. But no, it resembled a match, so I'm okay with giving it that. There were enough kendo stick swings and everything, so I think it kind of gave everybody. But I still wasn't a big fan of it. Maybe it's because of the booking. It just seemed like such a just mishmash, patched together match of Hack versus Nash. Like they don't have anything against each other. There's no storytelling here. It's just Hack's like, hey, I'm hardcore. Oh, and Chastity wants me to wrestle Kevin Nash. What do you say? And then we have the match. Like, I almost would have rather it had not even like none of that existed. I would have rather just been like, hey, tonight Nash wants to have this match with Hack, and like I've been fine with that, but I feel like that was a wasted promo. Like I don't think it was necessary to have.
All right. After this, Mean Gene's in the ring. He's going to bring out Bam Bam Bigelow. He's also going to say he's going to say the only thing he basically knows about Penn State is that Joe Paterno's around here, and he goes, and some other people. So literally, Joe Paterno's the only person that Mean Gene knows about here. We find out that Bam Bam is going to be wrestling Nasty Brian Knobbs at Slamboree. And Bam Bam's going to get on the microphone here, talk about the Jersey Shore, growing up with DDP, and says that him and Paige should wrestle tonight as the King of Hardcore and the World Champion. They need to be wrestling for the King of Asbury Park, of the King of the Jersey Shore. And he says, from one homie to another, DDP, you need to give me a shot here because, we always said if one of us made it, the other would, throw each other a bone. So Bam Bam challenging the World Champion to a match tonight. We then move to our next match. This is Ming and Goldberg, Kyle. We also get our second sign of the night. Somebody saying it's their 25th birthday.
This sign hurt my heart
which
so
now
much.
Means somebody is 45. So happy 45th birthday. You have reached middle age. You could have children in their 20s now. It makes me feel old.
It makes me feel ancient. I'm hoping he's still carrying a sign somewhere in wrestling to this day.
One can only hope. Goldberg, though, still well over here. A lot of Goldberg chants. I expected this match to be short and quick. Instead, it was long and slow. We had eye rakes and back rakes from Ming. We had Goldberg doing his side kicks. Eventually, of course, spear and jackhammer. I give it a 1.5. I thought this was even boring by Goldberg standards.
You know what? I gave it 2 stars, and I think the reason why was because take a Goldberg match and like take it like if it's like putty and just stretch it longer. And that's all this really was. I mean, sure, Ming got some offense in, but these are two guys that really aren't going to sell a whole lot of offense in the ring. So it was fine. I mean, I think the reason why I didn't put it the below 2 stars is because I felt like the crowd was even as slow or whatever. I felt like the crowd was just appreciative that Goldberg was on the show, and I do give some bonus stars or quarter half stars for if the crowd is into the match, and the crowd was into the match. So it's hard for me
into the match, or were they just into Goldberg?
But that's fine. What do you, from a TV audience perspective? What's the difference? You know, if the crowd is enjoying it, yelling Goldberg, and there's a bunch of chants, they're cheering at the actual any of the good spots that were there. That people were standing. I mean, there were people that were enjoying watching Goldberg. Maybe the match itself may not have tore the roof down. But I feel like anything that's under the 2-star to me is a match that the crowd was dozing over. And this wasn't as bad as the match was, or was not good as this match was. The crowd dug it, and to me, if the crowd is really into a match, I think a 2-star is warranted.
Okay. We then get Mean Gene back in the ring. He's going to bring out Diamond Dallas Page now. Of course, DDP is going to answer the call here from Bam Bam Bigelow. But first he opens up by saying he's proud that he's the only champ to lose and win the title in the same night, which I feel like is not a great accomplishment.
It's a weird accomplishment to compartmentalize.
Yeah. But he does say two-time, good God, champion.
But why did he say it 3 times?
I don't know. I wondered the same exact thing. He says he's got 2 words for you. Jump off the bandwagon. So well played, DDP. And he closes out by accepting Bam Bam's challenge. So it's almost like he forgot that was the reason he was there. We then move to our next match. Macho Man is back, Kyle. He's accompanied to the ring by Medusa. Of course, she's training the lovely, gorgeous George and Miss Madness. And his first opponent here, returning to Thunder, is another man who we thought may never wrestle again. I didn't think he had a contract, but here he is, the Disciple.
The fucking Disciple.
It was a squash match, as you can imagine, but one that went on for entirely too long. And it led to the Disciple actually having to, or Macho Man having to have the women help him win as they beat up on the Disciple on the outside. This leads to an elbow drop for the win. I gave the match 2 stars, and I admit when I did that, this match any other week does not get 2 stars. The only reason I gave it 2 stars this week is I was happy to see Macho Man back on Thunder wrestling because it had been a long time since we've seen him. It was really a trash match, but I'm giving it for the Macho Man and the Gorgeous George bump on this one.
I'm not giving it the benefit of that at all. This actually might be the lowest rating I gave a match, and there's many facets of why. I gave this 1 star. You needed 3 sets of tits. You needed 3 sets of tits, Macho, to beat Ed Leslie in 1999. That's all. I mean,
nice tits.
Just that by itself is 1 star to me. But put on top of that, this is Macho Man's return bout. He did technically wrestle on Nitro, but the match got thrown out. So I don't know if you want to call that his his wrestling return. I would consider this his wrestling return.
It's his Thunder return, if nothing else.
If nothing else.
And also, how about Ed Leslie's last 2 matches on Thunder? Macho Man and Hulk Hogan.
That's true. Like that. The dude was he was given a chance to answer the call, right? Going up against some megastars, and he can't come up with a win. But still, though, of all the people on the fucking roster for Randy Savage, his first real match back, and they pick the fucking Disciple. Put on top of it, the match is horrible. Once again, that's Ed Leslie's fault. I don't think Savage had much to work with. Disciple's entire offense was built around punching and choking, which once again, too, I think Savage's offense was a lot of punching and choking. I think I put in my notes that there was literally 1 wrestling move in the entire match, which was when when Macho Man scoop slammed Ed Leslie to set up the elbow drop. Everything else was literally like in the corner, choking, punching, headlock, maybe a chin lock here, some guardrail offense, and then you had Gorgeous George doing whatever the fuck she did by using her tits literally to bump into Macho Man, to bump Ed Leslie into the ring post. Then you had Medusa kicking Disciple in the stomach. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm glad Macho Man won. He's supposed to win, but Jesus Christ, man! Like, I could not fathom giving this. This is going to be what I'm going to remember as Macho Man's back. Look how good Macho Man looks. Awesome, by the way. Macho Man looks like a fucking shit brick house.
Like $1,000,000, yeah,
dude. He looks amazing, and he looked immobile. Once again, I probably blame that more on the Disciple of what he could probably do, and it was just there was nothing about this match that was enjoyable, minus the obvious things that you're supposed to enjoy when you're a 15-year-old boy.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Star and a quarter for the ladies. All right.
Hey, there you go. Welcome aboard. I knew it could sway you.
two times you got me.
Where they're going to move to our main event, Bam Bam Bigelow, Diamond Dallas Page, World Heavyweight title on the line, and it is a hardcore match. So here we are, second hardcore match of the night. The two are going to battle on the outside as we head to commercial before the match gets too hardcore. We then come back. They're battling up near the entrance ramp. They got a table. They got some bananas on that table, and Bam Bam is going to jump off, slip on the table. It's not going to break. It looked like a awkward spot. Bam Bam's going to grab a big trash can at one point, throw it on DDP. He's going to hit the diving headbutt. We finally go back. We're kind of back into the ring with traditional wrestling. Greetings from Asbury Park. Sets up. Nope. Page is going to reverse it into a diamond cutter, but he's not going to be able to get the pin. Out comes Macho Man, drops the elbow drop on Bam Bam. DDP's going to get the win, retain the title. I gave the match 2.5 stars. I thought it was a solid main event. I thought they told a good story. They're continuing to push this Macho Man. Why is he helping DDP, keep the title, all that. And when you got a main event on Thunder and the match is solid and they give it a decent amount of time and they tell some sort of story, I can't ask for much more on Thunder.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I also gave it 2.5 stars. Easily the best work rate of the night, as far as the two guys at least putting on a good show.
Definitely.
And thank God it was the main event because, the rest of these matches, some nice spots, a lot of near falls. Which once again, I think people, maybe I value it too much, but I think there is something to be said about doing a nice spot or a high. I guess you would call it a high damage, a strong move, and then going for a cover, and then slowly, it just feels like you're getting closer and closer. Like, okay, you got him for 2, you got a 2 count. Then it was like a kind of a 2.5 count.
You're like building
2 3/4.
That, yeah.
Yeah, you're building to the point where you feel like the next big move could be the thing that gets you over. And that's what I kept on seeing. Yeah, and so like Bam, it was a perfect story of that where Bam Bam was, kept on. Pouring on the offense, kept on trying to make the pins, and you'd think that all he needs to do now, it just felt like he's thrown everything at DDP. He just needs to get Greetings from Asbury Park, planted, and the title is his. But the finish is where I'm running into this weird, I guess, fuzzy line of confusion and frustration. I get that Savage has been sort of helping DDP win matches. I don't really know why. And I only say that because... I
think that's part of the story. I don't think you're supposed to know why quite yet.
Right, but I think my problem here is... and I said I'm also a victim of already kind of understanding what the future of wrestling holds. But I don't remember DDP fighting Macho Man anytime soon. I know Nash is fighting DDP at Slamboree. I don't remember who wins. But Macho Man's, his only part of the card is that he's going to be a part of the Charles Robinson Gorgeous George match. And plus I felt like DDP hit the diamond cutter and pretty much had Bam Bam dead to rights in the match. I know he didn't go for the pin,
but he couldn't make that pin.
Right, but you would think like if Savage is going to help you, wouldn't he? It's a no disqualification match. Why would he not just come in when DDP's in trouble? That's kind of how I see it. Like
that's fair, I guess.
DDP has at this point hit his big move, and let's just say he doesn't get the pin off. But I think at this point DDP is in control. So why would Savage need to come out? I mean, whatever. It's once again, it's Thunder storytelling. I probably shouldn't think too much in it. But yeah, like I said, I don't envision a payoff with this whole Randy Savage helping DDP.
Is it just the ability of hindsight? I mean, like, what has shown you? What at this point makes you think that there's no payoff?
Well, I think my problem is that he's been doing it so much that you would think that there would be something sooner. Like, I would have been fine if it was like, all right, now that you've done this, I want to match it on Nitro.
Well, my thought process is it's gonna, crescendo to Slamboree, and at some point something's got to give there.
Okay, well let's table that, and we'll talk about it after Slamboree happens, and then we'll come back. We'll circle back about this whole Macho Man DDP storyline and see if anything actually, bears fruit from it.
I'm good with that. That said, that was our show. That was our Thunder. What did you think about this?
I mean, yeah, I know I did give a quarter star to 2 matches, but that still doesn't change my overall feelings about this. Basically, I'm glad the main event was half decent because to me, the rest of the show was absolute dog shit. I think overall, the work rate was terrible. There was a lack of chemistry in the ring. And then you just had hardcore matches for the sake of hardcore matches. I understand it's 1999, and maybe that was kind of like the cool thing to do. But Booker T couldn't even make the first match entertaining with a visibly rusty and slow to move Kurt Hennig. But the real reason why I hated this episode, I can shit on matches all we want. If a match sucks, a match sucks. Live and let live. But the real reason why I hate this episode was that they knew that they were going to be going head to head against Vince McMahon with SmackDown coming up, and it was going to be playing on the same time. I believe on the UPN. I think that's where it debuted, was UPN. They tried really hard. They had top tier stars in matches. They tried to reach out to the hardcore audience. You had 2 title defenses, one being the world title. You had tits on the show. Like, what more could you ask for? Once again, like I said at the beginning of the show, on paper, if I were to tell the story, if I were to say out loud, hey, here's all the matches, here's all the people that are going to be there, you probably been like, wow, that seems like a fucking awesome, card. I would love to see that. The execution was awful, and it started at the very beginning with the poor production and them not being able to welcome us into Thunder probably the way they wanted to. It was just, how can you try so hard to try and create an entertaining product on the same night as SmackDown debuting and shit the bed that bad? I know you don't agree with me as much, but my big problem here is this could have been, they could have tried less and put just some, decent workers. There's already not a lot of story being told, maybe with the last match a little bit. But once again, it's a story that's already had been told. It's not a new development. It's just the same development that's been going on. So once again, they tried, they had top stars, and yet the show did not move the needle one bit in regards to storytelling. Could easily have never happened, which I've said before on the show. That's the worst thing to happen with a TV show, is if you create this 2-hour, production, but then say at the end of it, you ultimately didn't have to watch this show. Nothing really happened. Sure, there was wrestling. Sure, there were some interviews, but ultimately, no one's opinions, no one's peril or disgust or anything like that has gotten less or more. And finally, Macho Man makes his in-ring return, and he has to fight fucking Disciple. The words can't express how disappointed I was with this, especially considering that they had to go up against SmackDown, and that WWE was going to be bringing it.
Yeah, I'm sure they definitely brought it. I think they tried. I thought it was a solid Thunder. I think Goldberg was here. Yes, he wrestled Ming in a terrible match, but he was here. DDP put the world title on the line in the main event, and it was a good main event, which is, that to me is sometimes enough. But they had a good main event. They're continuing the story. We get Macho Man made his return. You open with Booker T and Kurt Hennig. Yes, the match quality overall wasn't great tonight. I think the 2.5 star in the main event was by far the best match. But they put things. You had Kevin Nash wrestle Sandman in a hardcore match in the middle of the show. Like that doesn't happen very often. So yes, the matches weren't great. Yes, they didn't tell a lot of. To your point, I could have skipped this episode and not missed much storyline at all. But you know what? I saw gorgeous swords. I saw Macho Man, Goldberg, DDP, Kevin Nash, and to a lesser extent Booker T at this point.
Jerry Flynn.
The Lightning Foot himself. I mean, they tried to put together a card, and it was different. It felt different. The hardcore matches made it feel different. Spring of '99 here, you can tell wrestling is in a different place than it was in spring of '98. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure SmackDown was probably a much better program. I don't remember the debut episode off the top of my head by any means, but I give it credit for trying. And yes, it won't be my favorite, but I think you're a little harsh on it. I'm probably being a little too kind to it. I think the truth probably lies somewhere in between. But I think we both have points that are valid. To your point, the matches for the most part were garbage. On my end, I think it was just they tried to do something different, bring a lot of the stars in that they could for it. And, ultimately, it's not going to work out. Of course, we know how this is all going to play out for them. But maybe it all was because they had Mike Tenay and Larry Zbyszko call all of it. Because, good Lord, I still can't stand Larry Zbyszko.
How many more weeks do we have of them?
Months and months and months. So that said, you've got months and months more of the podcast here. If you haven't yet subscribed, go do it. Leave us a 5-star rating. Let us know what you think. Give us a follow on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, all of that at Thundercraps. And, of course, you always go to thundercraps.com for all of our previous episodes. And then go check out Thunder 62. We will be pre-taped from Penn State, if I imagine. It'll be the May 6th, 1999 edition, which actually, while I'm sitting here, bear with me a second. I believe that date sounds very familiar to me. And I was wrong. It's a couple weeks away. May 19th is the release of the Phantom Menace. So,
oh God,
we're coming up to that. But that said, for Kyle Hogan, I'm Josh Kaiser, and we will see you next time on the Thundercraps podcast.
We are Ho Chi Minningly out of time. See ya.